Far from all the things I left behind, I hear the call of restless skies, the dreams I couldn't chase, the moments I can face. The streets unfold into the night, and woven dreams escape my sight. The winds hum through the pines, a name that still entwines. The city is asleep, moonlight cut so deep, footsteps dragging slow, and cold air on my skin is pulling me back in. The silence starts to sing, feel the stillness grow.
A curious mind always loves to travel, to dive into new environments, to experience different climates and landscapes. We go to new places and we ask ourselves, how do people here live their daily lives? What are their struggles? What are their values? Who would I be today if I had grown up in this other part of the world? Could I ever live here? This is when we all become movie directors, at least in our minds. When we imagine and make up stories with different actors, being inspired by foreign surroundings. The world is fascinating. I've seen quite a bit of it so far, and I don't think I will ever stop visiting new places. If I can find a reason to travel, I will do it. And especially in the past few years, I started to like to travel by myself. 2 years ago, I started to travel for medical reasons. I became a medical tourist, so to speak, joining the army of hundreds of thousands of Americans who travel abroad to see doctors and turning their backs on the American healthcare system. I believe that most people in their lives have at least one weak point in their health, and mine is and has always been my oral health. Since teenage years, I have had mercury fillings, later some crowns and root canals. Teeth have always been an issue for me, even though I have always brushed them. 2 years ago, I needed a root canal and a crown on my lower left side after a wisdom tooth removal. That removal has caused the worst pain in the neighboring tooth for months, until a Las Vegas dentist said I needed a root canal and a crown for the cost of an arm and a leg, which I had to pay off for the coming 2 years. Then shortly after, I had the same problem on the lower right side, and I thought to myself, oh well, I'm just going to work day in and day out to make my dentist wealthy. At the time, a co-worker told me about her dentist in Los Algodones, Mexico, a 6-hour drive from Las Vegas. I made an appointment. I got the root canal and the crown taken care of for a third of the price of dental procedures in the US. And I vowed to myself to only go to US dentists in the future for really small procedures. When I first went to Mexico, I was, of course, a little bit nervous. A coworker told me that he and his wife almost got robbed in Mexico a few years ago. And so I did my homework and I found out that these medical towns are actually very safe, and that the cartels wouldn't want to mess with tourists and bring the government against them. Now, traveling alone as a woman still always feels a little bit more unsafe regardless. But I do like to take some calculated risks sometimes, just like when I moved from Texas to Nevada without having any job lined up or without knowing anyone here in the city. In the system of human design, there's a channel, the 3828. It's also called the channel of struggle. On the surface, the question arises for those who have that channel defined: why in the hell would anyone want to get an extra portion of struggle in their lives? In the world already saturated with humans, animals, and also plants who are struggling on their daily lives. Yes, it is, but still for once I'm glad this channel is defining my life. In a sense, this definition means that we often seek the challenge, the edge, the thing that takes us just a little bit out of our comfort zone, which gives us a sensation of aliveness. A life of boredom is just not an option. New experiences, new challenges, though, make us feel alive. I'm not saying that driving to Mexico by myself is so dangerous, but there could, in theory, always be a car breakdown in the middle of nowhere, or a near heat stroke, which actually happened to me at my last visit. In each instance, when once I had a flat tire and once I actually did have all the symptoms of a heat stroke, some very kind and helpful people, strangers, were there to help me, which then reinforced my belief that somehow we are always being protected and taken care of when we need the help in those certain situations. So, as I see it, moderate risk-taking is a must in order to navigate the life towards a vision where you see yourself in the future lying on your deathbed one day and you tell yourself, okay, life hasn't always been the most easygoing, but it really has been full of new experiences, and I'm glad I have had many of them. Of course, ideal trips lead us to beautiful beaches, to forests or mountains, lakes or exciting cities. So many places in the world I have not seen yet. For example, Norway, Japan or Alaska are still on my bucket list to explore. Los Algodones in Mexico is none of that. It's a small border town near Yuma, Arizona, and there are hundreds of dentist offices. There are some motels and restaurants, and that's it. So it's not lovely there or anything like that, but I do like to dive into this foreign world for 2 days in a row. I do love to walk through the streets, having a meal at a restaurant, seeing this different way of life. And by the way, my dentist there has had very thorough schooling, parts of it also in the US. Actually, most dentists there have been trained in the US. I don't go to general doctors anymore. I think we can do so much for our health. Sunlight, exercise, food or supplements, there's so much to do. But I think if I've ever needed medical attention, then I would also try to get that abroad. Lately, I have had some sensitivity at the site of the root canal and decided it would be better to have that taken out and replaced by an implant on each side. So I made arrangements for this trip. But this time something unexpected happened, or rather didn't happen. So as I was sitting in the dentist chair ready to have those 2 dead teeth with the root canals taken out and getting the implant in the next morning, all of this for $3,000, by the way. In the US, it would have cost 3 to 5 times that. Anyway, I explained to the doctor that sometimes my left side feels a little bit sensitive and the root canals are bad, and to go ahead and to do the work. Well, and he takes x-rays, he smiles and he says, there's nothing to do. There are no infections. He could shave down that tooth that is a little bit elevated to relieve that pressure, and that will probably take care of that sensitivity, but there's nothing to do. And I said, yes, but I drove all the way down here from Vegas to get this procedure. Don't tell me I drove here for nothing. He said he could pull the teeth, but he would not recommend it. He told me to go and enjoy a meal at a local restaurant and to come back for a checkup there by the end of the year. So basically, I really drove 6 hours there and 6 hours back for nothing, to take care of the worries of a problem with the root canals that didn't exist. I did then enjoy the afternoon in Los Algodones, and I drove back to Vegas the next morning. But, as long as I can remember, every trip I have had always came with a big epiphany, an aha moment, a deep understanding about something in life. And so this trip was no different. The big insight was not that I pretty much drove to Mexico for no reason, but it came from a situation that had occurred the day before on my way actually to Mexico. What had happened was that the night before my dental visit, I had very little sleep, maybe about 4 hours. And so I noticed after about 3 hours of driving that I was quite tired, and what then happened was a big bird came flying towards my windshield, and in the last second it made a U-turn and avoided hitting my car. And in that moment when this happened, I instantly thought, this has something to do with me. This must be a message of some sort from this bird. About an hour later, I was driving on that straight country road through California. And as I was driving, I was also thinking about my sandwich that I brought for the travel. I wondered, should I eat it now or should I eat it later when I arrive in Mexico? And what will I eat on my way back, since I wanted to avoid gas station food and so on. And as I was contemplating all things sandwiches, eating times and so on, I was speeding right through a stop sign. I realized it just as it happened. I think I never in my life ran a stop sign before, so I came to a stop afterwards, realizing that there had been no car from the left or the right, but there could have been. I counted my blessings and immediately thought of that bird that had almost hit my car earlier. I'm thinking that bird has given me a warning, so to speak. Yes, this moment I have been lucky, or maybe we do have some sort of guardian angels watching out for us that protect us. But I really took this incident as a message to not always count on being lucky or protected, but to become way more aware and conscious about the situations I'm in the future, to not let my mind drift too much while I'm on the road or anywhere in public, and to stay smart always and awake, to get the rest that I need for a long drive also. Because one day that bird might fly into that windshield, just as one day I might pass that stop sign at the wrong time. Well, I'm glad and I'm grateful that no accident occurred that day that could have harmed others or myself. In today's world, where there are so many potentials for accidents, for dangerous situations, for all kinds of incidents which could cut our lives short, it is so crucial to become situationally aware, and I deeply understood this that day, and for that I'm feeling quite grateful. If you feel grateful for an insight you recently had, please share in the comment section. I would love to hear. I hope you liked my little report from my dental visit in Mexico. Take care.
The city is asleep. Moonlight cuts so deep. Footsteps dragging slow in cold air on my skin is pulling me back in. The silence starts to sing. Feel the stillness grow. Surrender into light that pierces through.